Good evening, everybody. It's Monday, I think, right? Oh man, I am so bad. I'm so bad with. Why do you let me do the intro to these things like every time?
It's
It's
sort of naturally happen that
it's
way.
Monday. It's 7:30 on the West Coast, 10:30 on the East Coast, and this is the weekly Calamity Chain live stream. How you doing, James?
I'm doing great. How are you over there?
I'm hanging in there. I'm hanging in there. Keeping busy, all work and no play makes a Jack a dull boy. But I'm getting. I got a. That was just. I don't know where I was going with that. All right. I'm just. I'm pulling the ripcord on that, and we're just gonna pretend. Can we start over? Like, these live streams are not
let's do it.
live?
Let's do it. Let's start over. Let's do it. We can always fix it in post.
Okay, I'll fix it in post on a live
Yeah.
stream. Yeah.
let's do that.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. It's Monday at 7:30 p.m. on the West Coast, 10:30 on the East Coast. It is time for your weekly Calamity Jane live stream. James, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thumbs up. Still,
So,
still doing good.
excellent. See, that was way better. I'm so glad. Well, I'm glad these live streams aren't live or anything.
I think what happened was I threw you off because I asked how you were doing.
Oh, is that with the we got the cadence wrong and
And
then
all of a sudden, yeah, I just can't. I can't check up on your well-being. Maybe that's probably what it is.
it's mostly because I have such a routine-oriented brain. I'm like a dog in that way. Like if you break my routine, then it's all over for me.
Falls apart.
It just falls apart. I am a walking house of cards. In any case, it's good to see you as always. How are you doing?
I can't complain. I've been trying to think about where we were going to talk about what we were going to talk about for this week. And I'm thinking about going into the first entrance of Calamity Jane going into Mitchell's bar tonight.
A pretty critical moment in episode one
Yeah,
because this is when our hero meets what is probably the closest thing she has to a friend as, as much as that word has any meaning for Mitchell. um but yeah, okay, cool.
So I'll go ahead and start doing that. It is more of exploratory. Like I don't have an actual like we're imagine we're just at this at sea and we're just out there floating and I think I see a desert island or deserted island or whatever you want to call it off in the distance. Let's just go over there real quick.
Sounds
And then
great. I love chasing mirages.
yeah, it is definitely a mirage. I'm just kind of just want to get a feel for it. Um, Kind of throw some assets in there of Calamity Jane, like some stuff that we've sort of been created, and kind of just block out some stuff. So I'm going to share screen mode, then we'll just talk about whatever at the same time.
Okay, well, this week it's a
Ah,
return to form for me.
yes. Yes, I did throw you off. I did throw you off. All the distractions worked.
Yes, indeed. You win this round, Mr. Jacobs. Don't think that I will forget this in the near future.
No worries at all. So,
Revenge is a
um,
dish best served with pinto beans and a side of rice.
I like pinto beans actually.
That's actually a God, one of my favorite cartoons. Not Futurama, which is another great cartoon. No, Freakazoid.
Mm.
Back in the '90s when there was all those Steven Spielberg presents cartoons.
Oh, was that
Um,
a Steven Spielberg Presents
it was a
cartoon?
Steven Spielberg presents cartoon. Yeah,
Oh,
that Tiny Toons, Animaniacs.
yeah, the other ones I
Yeah.
remember. Freakazoid. I remember there was a catchy tune intro.
Oh, I love that theme song. I could
Theme,
sing every lyric.
yeah, and then he had like a blue bandana thing, right?
It was
Or
a black Robin mask, but his skin
oh,
was blue, and then he had
oh,
black like shock of like
yeah,
Goku hair, but then a white streak on it.
and a big giant smile for the most part.
Yeah, he looked like a weird Joker kind of.
Yeah, and what was his deal? What was the deal with that guy?
The premise was it was just some nerd who bought a computer with a glitch, and his cat walked across his keyboard and entered the random string of digits into the keyboard that sucked him into the internet. This is in the early days of the internet.
Okay,
And it turned him into the Freakazoid.
I see.
And once that happened, all he had to say was "freak out" is how he turned into the Freakazoid, and "freak in" is how he turned back into his normal self.
Oh, okay,
Very Johnny Storm.
and he would solve crimes. every
I
week?
mean, solve is a word you could use. Mostly, it just turned into random antics.
Okay.
Um, but oh, I loved Freakazoid.
Yeah, I remember seeing it, but I always would change channel on it. I don't know what it was. It just
Hmm.
didn't resonate with me as much. But I love Tiny Toons
Yeah,
and Animaniacs. You were telling me about the reboot of Animaniacs on
yeah. The
Hulu.
new season it was highly entertaining. I missed they focused only on the Warner siblings and Pinky and the Brain, which are great. But I
Uh-huh.
did miss a lot of the smaller characters like Good Idea, Bad Idea, and the old cranky squirrel, and then the Good Feathers, and oh god, there's so many characters in that show. And they really didn't bring back many of them. There was one episode where they all kind of came back in a brief cameo, and it was pretty
Uh-huh.
funny, um, if a little preachy, but it was so funny. But it was, yeah, that was really the only part that I was kind of sad about. But the writing was really spot on.
Mhm.
The songs were very funny, and yeah, just glad to see the Animaniacs come back.
Yeah, I started watching him, and I was entertained. I thought it was nice to see him again. And like you said, the music was pretty funny. Yeah, it was just as if they never left, kind of a thing.
Hmm.
Felt like so that's good, I guess, for them.
I would love like the Animaniacs thing. I would love for them to do going back to Freakazoid. I would love for them to do more Freakazoid. Oh, I love that cartoon.
Do you think it had enough of a following for them to? No, I don't think so either. I
No,
have
no.
a feeling.
I one of my favorite and I know I'm belaboring Freakazoid here, but one of my favorite uh, episodes of Freakazoid is Candle Jack, who's this ghost who steals children, but only if they say his name. So Candlejack goes to a camp, and all of the kids are so stupid they just keep saying Candlejack, and he's like, he captures all of them. He's like, I don't know. All you have to do is not say my name. This is ridiculous. He gets frustrated at how easily he's capturing all the children in the camp, and I just remember just dying. Oh my god, I don't know if I would find the show as humorous now as I did then, but it's that kind of silly, absurd kind of writing that I find infinitely appealing in most instances.
Mhm. Um, it's how many? Let's see, how many things did Spielberg have on his list for animation stuff back then?
I mean,
Uh,
off the top of my head, I can only think of those three, but I'm sure there were more.
yeah, there may have been more, but yeah, it is. Yeah, he had a great decade.
Yeah, I have no idea to this day if he actually had anything to do with any of those cartoons, or if it was more of a marketing thing, right?
I think it was a marketing thing. I just don't. Do you remember how I don't know if you recall, but there was a time when the movie directors were trying to invade video games. They were trying to get their put their stake into it. This happened in the '90s too.
Hmm.
I thought Spielberg was trying to do that at the same time.
He did move
Who,
into
who
video games eventually.
well, as a movie, you mean?
No,
Uh,
no, no. He partnered with EA, and he did a bunch of, well, not a bunch, but like the only one I can remember that actually came out was a puzzle game for the Wii called Boom Blocks, I think. And
uh-huh.
basically, you just threw balls at blocks, and you had to knock all the blocks down in a certain number of throws. And then the puzzles got more and more complicated. It was like a steel ball or a bomb or different things like that. It was actually really fun. I'm not gonna lie. Um, but yeah, it was a Steven Spielberg's presents Boom Blocks, I think is what it was called.
Huh. And and after that, that was it. Then
That was it. Then he stopped making anything that I found particularly interesting.
mhm. um, Lucas obviously he had LucasArts, so obviously all those games there were some great games from
Yeah,
his. But again, whether he had anything to do with anything, I don't know really
yeah.
either. Just he's happened to run into really talented game designers and stuff. Um, But yeah, he had a good run. Some games there too.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's super strange to me. Lucasfilm has gotten so corporate now that Spielberg's not. I mean, not that Lucas isn't a part of it. And their Lucasfilm or the Lucas sort of umbrella is starting a new video games division,
They
right?
are
Mm-hmm.
really
And you know what it's called?
Lucas Land.
Lucasfilm Games. And I'm sitting there going, why just not? Maybe they think that the LucasArts brand is too toxic, or maybe they wanted something like, like, why do they call it Lucas Games, right? Like, I don't know. It's just like they wanted to use the logo of Lucasfilms, obviously, right? And so they chose to call it Lucasfilm Games, which is just,
So
it's like swing and a miss for me, guys.
so did they is was LucasArts considered toxic?
I don't
I,
know. I have no idea. I'm speculating that maybe
okay,
the marketing people that rule the world thought it was toxic.
okay, all right. Did they get sold out? They got sold to EA or who bought them?
I have no idea who owns at this point. I would assume that Lucasfilm owns the rights to all those old LucasArts games again, but
Mm-hmm,
I honestly have no real insight. They're not
mm-hmm,
lost in copyright hell or anything because they re-release them all the time.
mm-hmm.
So someone clearly owns the rights to them.
Was Full Throttle a LucasArts game?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, look, yeah.
Yeah, and that was
That was Tim Schafer.
Tim- yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, the
uh,
guy. Yeah, Double Fine fame. Yeah,
yeah. Um, yeah, there's so many different games that came out of that.
yeah.
Came out was my one of my favorites was Maniac Mansion. I think that was a LucasArts game.
That was a crazy, and the follow-up Night of the Tentacle was pretty great too.
Yeah, I never had a chance to play that one. Was it as good as the original?
It was different. The one thing I liked about it is, I mean, I found the first Maniac Mansion was so rudimentary. I personally found it a little hard to play.
Mm-hmm.
But Night of the Tentacle had really great visuals, and it still retained a lot of the what was the Maniac Mansion parsing language. They had a proprietary mechanic, and they called it Scum or something. Yeah, I think it was a Scum engine or something like that. In any
Mm-hmm.
case, I always preferred Secret of Monkey Island, the first one, even if it got a little bit esoteric in terms of some of the puzzle solving.
See, I missed out on Monkey Island. I didn't play that one. Maniac Mansion I played, and yeah, I have Data. I think I have Data Tentacles still like on. I'm sorry, Data Tentacles number two. Is that?
I believe that's the sequel. Yeah.
Yeah, I have it someplace, like on my Steam library or somewhere. And I just haven't got around to playing it yet. And then now they've remastered all of them, so now I
Mm-hmm.
don't know whether it's worth it to play it later. So what I liked about Maniac Mansion though is it was because it was so rudimentary. That's what made it fun for me because
Mm.
it was so stiff and that it made it fun. Like you're always laughing at it because it's so silly. And then the tension of getting caught, all that stuff was kind of still kind of semi newish, back then, back in the day.
That's
For a game.
fair. Yeah, I picked it up on the after it had its kind of cultural moment had come and gone. So I really wasn't experiencing it in when it was still sort of new in the zeitgeist, right?
Yeah,
And so that definitely will change your experience with any product.
yeah. I mean, that was equivalent to just like that game was like equivalent to literally, well, not literally, but like it was the closest thing you get to breaking into somebody's house and doing stuff, and not getting caught, And so, yeah, I remember that's what made it so much fun. But yeah, I everything you're saying about it being rudimentary and all that stuff, yeah, for sure. It was really wasn't much to it. Well, you have to figure out where to find the key, talk to this person to get a trigger to happen, and then something else
Hmm.
happens. Yeah, it's all after that. It's pretty basic, but
So to
yeah,
talk about Calamity a little bit here, this moment she is walking into Mitchell's bar for the first time, and
yes,
you are taking her sort of neutral pose and clearly getting it into position for a simple walk cycle.
Yes. So you saw where as we were talking, I took her neutral position here, and I've now converted it to. I'm starting to convert it to more sad, more
Mm-hmm.
um, putting her more on model. So again, these are storyboards, so I'm kind of just drawing these pretty loosely. So to me, this is her model right here. And again, with Calamity Jane, she's a salamander, so she can be pretty malleable and she
Mm-hmm.
can be pushed around a lot. So on model is a kind of a relative term. I'd like to go to a point where we can really push her eyes out farther sometimes or whatever, do some really kind of wacky things with her body because she's so flexible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that'll happen over time as I animate her more and I get more familiar with her. I think I can't speak for other animators, but for me, if I'm spending time with a character, after a long time, you kind of live in their personality, and you can kind of push them in certain ways, and
Mm-hmm.
start to feel like what's on model for them and what's not. It's more of a touchy feel kind of thing. Like when you're driving your old beater car from when back in college, certain sounds, how it hugs a certain way for a turn. Same thing with characters. I know it's a weird comparison, but at least
No,
for me,
I mean it. I can relate. I mean, I remember driving my father's hand-me-down pickup truck, and knowing every inch of that vehicle. I mean, I
yeah,
couldn't rebuild it or anything, but in terms of how it drove, how it handled, and that kind of stuff, like, yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
yeah. So that's what's kind of it feels like during production, like I would imagine I've never done feature before, but I would imagine in a feature when you spend time with the character, there's a reason why animators spend so much time drawing exploratory poses and like character poses for the first few weeks before they ramp up, and then you go into production, then you have to hit the ground running. And then by the time you're done, it feels like you probably get some of your best stuff there because you already have so much mileage built up with the character that you can kind of I don't know. After a while, it's like an old friend kind of a thing. Um, I remember at WB talking to some of the veteran guys there. Like they would draw Bugs Bunny like within a blink of an eye because they'd
Mm-hmm.
drawn Bugs for so many years. They could it was impossible for them not to draw a wrong pose of Bugs
Mm-hmm.
at a
Mm-hmm.
certain point. Whereas me, that sucked. I couldn't do anything. I just
Yeah, just like
hallucinated.
just like any skill or trade or craft, there's a certain amount of muscle memory. I think
Yeah,
that comes along with it.
that's exactly it. Muscle memory.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, like you said, it translates to anything. Even playing a video game and playing a character X amount of time, you get you can play that, and you kind of get a feel for the game and how it's built, and how the designers built it, and you can just get away with a lot more stuff. The iframes, everything.
Yeah, I mean that's the real secret to a lot of like these really impressive videos on YouTube. Um, when you see players doing these amazing things, um, they're showing you the successful time, the try. They're not showing you
Yeah,
the 1,005 failed attempts, right,
yeah,
before they get it right that one time. And
yeah,
it's these players are exceptionally skilled. There's no question about that. But it's not like this is just something that they turned on and then all of a sudden they're able to do, right? They memorize where every enemy is. They memorize where every jump is. They memorize every glitch and how to perform it to perfection, right? It's almost like learning an extremely complicated piece of music, right? They've
yeah.
practiced it so many times. It's integrated into the subconscious almost in terms of what they're doing.
Much like your example of giving me a tutorial of Smash Brothers about
Yeah,
same thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I no matter how many times they release new versions of that game, they don't change them so much that I can't still go back to characters that I know and just pick them up and immediately be lethal with them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean we've talked about this before. I don't claim to be great at video games, generally speaking, but I will say that I'm pretty okay at Smash Brothers.
Yeah, from based on what you were telling me, it sounds like you're you can hold your own just fine. But I don't know. This is your perfect chance to talk some trash talk to whoever wants to challenge you with Smash Brothers. I can't do it. I Smash Brothers.
Yeah, yeah. You never really got into the Smash Brothers craze.
Yeah, luckily I think in some ways, but maybe not. I don't know. I started playing on the Switch and it's good. It's a great game.
Hmm.
But it doesn't. It's just. I'll go back to it. But like I said, there's so many games to play. How much time do you have to do that? And
Well, not just games. It's movies to watch, TV shows to watch, music to
mhm.
listen to, books to read, comic books to read. I mean, it's just this is something I was talking to. Maybe it was you, maybe it wasn't, but you know, it's interesting. Nintendo, speaking of Smash Brothers, said
Mhm.
an interesting thing. No, I don't. Not Nintendo as an entity, but someone within Nintendo. Maybe it was Reggie Fils-Aimé before he retired, or Satoru Iwata before he passed away. But they were talking about how they no longer really see themselves as competing with Sony or Microsoft.
Yeah, they're
It's
all
not
kind of
that.
doing.
Yeah, it's not that it's not that they don't like see them as a threat or anything like that. But the way they look at it, they're competing with everybody because all basically entertainment is on a screen now, right?
Mm,
Movies, television, books, YouTube, Facebook, literally every entertainment medium, all recreational activity is on a screen these days. Then their feeling is that they're competing with everybody now,
yeah,
right? And so trying to make business decisions to compete with other game developers is missing the larger picture of the entertainment business at this point. And I thought that that was a really, really interesting observation. And
yeah,
I think a true observation.
yeah. I think, yeah. They're competing for eyeballs
Right,
at this point.
absolutely. Just, yeah, absolutely.
It's yeah, you are. It makes a lot of sense actually. So, huh.
Um,
Well, as long as keep making cool games, I mean, I'll definitely show up. But yes, it is as a consumer, it is harder now to divvy up your time. And
mm-hmm.
if you have a family and kids, then you have to really hope that your kids are into games. So you can kind of do the experience with them at this point. Um, it seems like to me.
Well, I'm fortunate. My nephew loves Smash Brothers, so
Mhm.
we play Smash Brothers on a regular basis. His current obsession right now, and I probably shouldn't let him play it, but is Borderlands 2.
You got him into that?
I got him into Borderlands, yeah. And he not 3 because I thought 3 was pretty mediocre, but Borderlands 2 was great, and the pre-sequel was great, and we've been playing through Borderlands 2, and he's been enjoying that, and I justify it because the visuals are very cartoony.
Yeah, so you can kind of get away with it.
So you sort of get away with it, but his dad also doesn't really care, so it's all fine.
Does his dad play games, or is he not really a gamer?
He's not really a gamer. He spent several, probably maybe even 1,000 hours on World of Warcraft
Oh,
and
so,
EverQuest. So he got into MMOs, a couple of MMOs pretty hard, but he's not in general a big gamer.
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty hardcore though. If you're doing EverQuest, I mean, back in the day they called it EverCrack, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Pretty,
he enjoyed those games. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. But yeah, it kind of ebbs and flows. I mean, I think for a lot of people, games kind of do that. I mean, you kind of put them down for a little bit, then you pick them back up. I've gone through phases like that too, where I won't play for a little while and then I'll pick it back up. But for me, Neo 2 is the one that's still stealing every.
Still,
Yeah,
it's everything, huh?
it's everything.
It's the sun and the moon for you.
It is. It's no games. No game except for maybe StarCraft 1 and 2 have
Mm-hmm.
taken this many hours away from me.
Wow,
Just pure entertainment and frustration at this
that's pretty
point.
impressive.
I marks for that game.
For me, I mean, there's been a few in my life. One of the ones that really left a mark on me was Burnout Paradise.
Hmm.
Man, there was just something about that game, and the way you talk about Neo 2 is it brings up memories about um, how I felt about Burnout Paradise. I very rarely squeeze all of the blood out of any rock, And that one, there was no more blood in that rock when I was done with Burnout Paradise.
It's funny. I keep eyeing it, like, and I've talked about this before. Like, do I want to buy it or not? Because right now on PS4, I can buy it for like less than $10. It seems like a
Yeah,
really
it's
good deal.
super cheap. Well, they
But
just
then,
lowered, they ported it to the Switch, and they
yeah,
just permanently reduced the price by 40%. So it's like $20 now on the Switch.
I just checked today. It was 29.99.
Okay, 29.99. Okay,
Yeah,
so 30
it's,
bucks.
it's still not bad, but
Well, I
like,
mean, it just being able to like lie in bed and then like go into Showtime mode and crash down East Paradise Avenue for 10 minutes. I don't know. That novelty never wears old.
um, how is it for multiplayer? Because it's like if you and your nephew were to play it, could you guys play it together on two
No,
different?
it's not. It's not local. We'd have to have two Switches.
Okay, and is it
It's a
fun?
split screen rather. But what's that?
Would it be fun?
Oh yeah, it's phenomenal. The multiplayer is it was best in class multiplayer. I mean, the in the heyday of the game, um, there's like different challenges for between two players and up to eight players, and as more players left and entered your room, it would dynamically change which challenges you could attempt.
Okay.
And so it was basically this bottomless pit of things that you could do. And then there's a ton of different modes. You could do races, you could do crash mode, there's cops and robbers mode.
Mhm.
The multiplayer was like a hugely awesome value proposition.
So you can't couch co-op though.
No
It,
couch co-op. No, I
it's
mean
one dedicated Switch with another dedicated Switch for the game, and then that's it.
that's it. Yeah, but that's legacy. It never supported split screen even back in the good old days
Okay.
when people actually still cared about couch co-op.
Okay. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I've been thinking about picking up that game, and I always just eye it and go, well, PS4 or Switch, and then I think about like, do I want to play this with my nephews? And maybe it'd be fun to get on the Switch that way because that's their console. So
Yeah.
and then this has been with me since college. I always want to get games on the cheap, so I don't want to pay full price if I can help it, unless it's a launch day title that I can't, that I need to play on launch
Sure,
day.
sure. Or it's a Nintendo title and they don't reduce the price for like years and years and years.
Yeah, there's that too. Um, so that's all. That's the only reason why I'm hemming and hawing over that now is which one I want to, which
Yeah.
console I want to buy for. But I think you've already made the perfect justification to
Well,
buy it on the Switch.
I
So
bought the remaster on Xbox One and I played it almost to completion on Xbox One, and then they ported it to Switch, and I bought it on the Switch and played it almost to completion on the Switch. So
yeah,
I have logged hundreds of hours into Burnout Paradise.
huh.
Um, and I can tell you definitively that the game looks equally as good on the Switch as it does on the Xbox One. Now, I'm not really a graphics guy.
Yeah.
So I'm certain that someone who is really into graphics could probably point out a bunch of things that are inferior on the Switch version. But a casual stooge like me who can't really tell the difference between 30 and 60 frames a second, um, I couldn't tell the difference. And it does run at 60 frames a second even on the Switch. So
There was a YouTube video that analyzed the difference between that one and the PS4. The PS4 edged it out as far as horsepower, but the human eye, you're not going to see some of the subtle anti-aliasing that happens in the game. Like that type of stuff that some people geek out over.
yeah, well, and that
So
and the fact that like you're playing the game and if you're driving less than 100 miles an hour, you're playing the game wrong. So everything is
yeah,
just a
yeah,
blur on the screen anyway for the most part.
yeah, yeah. So I thought that was kind of funny. So yeah, the game looks beautiful on either port. So
Yeah, we'll close out on this in a second, but I love those videos because it's gotten so minute. I almost watch them just to make myself laugh because you'll watch it and they'll show, and it doesn't have to be like Switch versus another version. It could just be
yeah,
two different versions of the
yeah,
same game for any platform, and the host they'll show one version and they'll split screen with the next version, and the host will go, "Look at the difference! Isn't that unbelievable?" And I'm going,
what? I
"Nope."
don't,
Nope. There
Yeah.
is no difference. I don't know what you're talking about. That could be the same game.
Yeah, yeah, I kind of laugh a little bit too because it's gone. Back in the '90s, it was one thing when you're getting a new graphics card, you could definitely see a difference.
Right.
It's so small now that
It is, and I'm teasing a little bit. There's nothing wrong with really wanting to split hairs on that technology. If that's what you're
yeah,
into, great. But
um,
it's so funny how far outside of that world I am. I'm laughing for myself more than anything else because I'm going, no, I can't. No, I can't see the difference, random host person.
uh, um,
But all right, well, we're up at 30 minutes, so we'll go ahead and close it out. But so just to wrap up, this is Calamity is walking into the prickly pear at this point
yeah,
for
we'll
her fateful first encounter with Mitchell Winchester.
we'll talk about this more next week, I think.
Sure, I think so.
But yeah, her initial pose is already kind of pretty much done. I mean,
Hmm.
I don't know if anybody, if you were watching before, I went from this pose pretty much got her to this
That's
pose.
really cool, though. Like in 30 minutes, her entire demeanor, her posture, everything has changed. It's
Yeah,
remarkable.
it's fun. This particular style, this flat style, again, it helps. It's really forgiving.
Hmm.
You get a lot of points around and get what you want, and kind of do it down and dirty and fast, and you still convey what you want. So we'll talk about this more next week, and we'll go into the whole scene and where I can recycle stuff, etc.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very cool. Yeah, some of this stuff you can definitely just scale down, right? Because we're not actually bound to a camera. We can fake it by just scaling art assets.
Yes, exactly. And then working with vector assets, I mean, that's the whole point. Like using Flash or even After Effects, which we'll get into too. Um, you could just scale it up. You're not going to lose any quality or
Right,
anything.
right. It's all vector. Yeah.
So it's good. All good.
Very cool. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next week. Are we still at our 10:30 slot next week? You think?
I think so, but there's now going to be a 50-50 chance. I think we're wrapping up the freelance
Well, then
thing.
let's just say 10:30 and not even worry about it for next
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
All right.
When I know officially, then we'll switch it up.
Okay, excellent. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. As always, you can find us on Patreon. You can just get there. The easiest way is just type calamityjane.rocks in your browser of your choice, and it'll take you right to our Patreon site. We're also on Facebook and YouTube, which presumably is where you're watching this right now. And in the meantime, enjoy your week and stay safe, and we'll talk soon. Good night, everybody.
Bye, everybody.